Derek, good to see you.
Good to see you
Welcome
too.
to, thank you. It's our inaugural Guide Spotlight episode. I actually think you were the actual first guide on our platform. If I miss, yeah, no, actually, maybe not. I mean, other than me and Jill, I think there might have been one or two others. But anyway, you're in the first
It
wave.
was pretty early on when we started talking about it. So yeah.
Yeah. So glad to have you, but you are the first in our guide spotlight. You are the first to put up an online class and the first of many. There's already a couple and there's going to be more to come. But your topics are really exciting. So we're just going to spend a little bit of time talking through what you're going to be covering, teaching, what people can expect, and what else you'll cover maybe down the road and really just what kind of experience you want to deliver. It really is, I think that's a good way to put it. You're going to deliver an experience through film, through other people's films. So a lot of other people in the first case, and then one person a little later. So yeah, Derek, do you want to just introduce yourself to people that might not know you? And I'll go ahead and share your profile as we're talking here.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Derek Smith. More recently, in the last 7 or 8 years, you may have read me on Slant Magazine. That's where I write primarily about new releases and then also some older releases that are coming out on Blu-ray and 4K. Before that, I mean, I grew up outside Philadelphia, went to school in North Carolina at Wake Forest. And that was kind of when I really fell in love with film, was taking a few film classes in undergrad. And made my way out to the West Coast, went to grad school in Orange County at Chapman University, and then kind of crawled my way up to LA over the next few years after that. So that's where I've been lately, and
Your blog
okay.
too.
I mean, originally, yes, I got started writing was on my Cinematic Reflections website for, gosh, that was probably going on about 10 years that I had that thing running. And then I wrote for a while over at a site called Tiny Mixtapes. So I did some concert and music festival reviews, and also a bunch of film reviews over there before eventually making my way to Slant. So yeah, bit of a journeyman in where I've lived and where I've written for too. So
nice word, journeyman. And Chapman is no joke. That's a good school, from what I hear. I haven't been there, but you can.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a very good school. I went there like right in between the 2 years when they built like the new facilities, and the new facilities was I forget who they got a big donation from, like $100-some million donation.
Wow.
That they were trying to compete with USC, so they built a nice new building and all that fancy stuff. So I was in the of course it was like the film production was like 120 people, and the film studies was like 9. So it's a little a lot of people want to be directors.
Well, and I think the 20 years blogging, we have a lot of respect for bloggers. We've been bloggers, and you were really early too. Like I even think even before it was cool, I think you had your website. And not saying it wasn't cool then, just you were really one of those the precursors to the blogs. And of course, Japanese cinema. So let's dig into that. Just scroll down a little bit. We have 2 classes. So Japanese New Wave, 65 to the 70s, and then Japanese New Wave, 56 to 64. Actually, we have them backwards. So this one is actually first. I'll go ahead and just go here. So these are going to be your first classes. This specifically is going to be your first class. So what about Japanese New Wave really gets you going? Why'd you pick this topic to start off?
Well, I mean, one of the 2 things that I really fell in love with when I started getting more into film was, I mean, really French films and Japanese films. And at first it was the, Mizoguchi, Kurosawa. I think when I was in grad school, there was a big Mikio Naruse retrospective, like back in like 2006, when like nobody really knew about him. And that was like a huge discovery for me then, just in terms of getting me more into Japanese film. And it wasn't till later that I and also French New Wave. I love the French New Wave. So the Japanese New Wave kind of came a little bit later in terms of me getting more into, what exactly it was about. And I think, one of the things I noticed was just, the French New Wave, so much of it was, from the film critics, and not to say that there wasn't a cultural component, but it was very much the film critics sort of being upset with the type of films that were being made in France, the French tradition of quality. They're just like, you're making, these crappy films that have no personality. They're just, these bland adaptations. They sort of rebelled against, the directors that came before them. Same thing with the Japanese New Wave, except so much of it was sort of a cultural touchstone that of more of what those directors represented within society as a whole. So it was a very, angry, politically driven film movement, but there were also a lot of, aesthetic changes that came with that. So it's kind of interesting to look at the Japanese New Wave from a historical perspective, which you can kind of go all the way back to, the Japanese Imperial Army and World War II, draw a straight line up to, the Japanese New Wave and, the filmmakers at that time. And it's just such a fruitful period. And it helps that, so many of those films are widely available on the Criterion Channel, yet they're also not necessarily the most discussed films, because they're not necessarily, they're not always the easiest films to watch, but I find that they're even more fruitful when you look at them combined with the historical perspective. If you just sit down and watch, a Nagisa Oshima film, you'll probably be, you could be fascinated by it, but I think you get more out of it if you start talking about it as a larger part of a larger conversation, rather than just, oh, what is he doing with this one film? What is this, what is he doing with his style here? So, the first part of the class, I was originally going to do it as an 11-week class. And then, we had talked about it and decided, I think it's better to divide it up into time periods, 5 weeks and 5 weeks. One, because the films can be a little bit demanding, but they're also very fun. I mean, take a look at week 3, Giants and Toys and Black Test Car. I mean, they're dark, but Masamura's films are just, they're really, really entertaining films to watch. So, I tried to sort of split up the class and not have everything just be, angry and heavy. Class 5 noir, yes, it's angry and heavy, but it's also, those are both extremely entertaining films. So
Very much so.
So I tried to make it so that the class would kind of have a nice balance between not making it feel like, what you're viewing for the week is homework, as much as, oh, I'm enjoying these films, and then now we're going to kind of learn more about why they came about. So,
and I recommend people watch the trailer too. And we'll go ahead and put that we'll put the registration page in the show notes, although it's easy to find on our website.
That was a lot of fun to cut and put together. So
let's look at the second one. And I love the images you chose to represent them. So the trailer again, and I'll just scroll down to the and I love the shots too. This is very new wave-ish, very much, of course, here, political protest, societal upheaval. So speaking of which, so you'll resume in August. So Tales of the Occupation, and that's very much in the mind of the French people as well. Not that they're very different, but
I mean,
great films.
We were talking about Melville off mic, and I mean, his first film is very much about the German occupation. So I mean, the U.S. occupation, I don't think, and even just doing in research, it was like, I didn't even realize quite how impactful the occupation was, and how long it went on in certain areas of Japan, following World War II. So that kind of looms large over more than just Pigs in Battleship and Gates of Flesh, but those are kind of two very different but very interesting films to kind of talk about what the U.S. presence had the effect that it had on Japanese culture. So
Yeah, it's in a lot of movies too. So
yeah,
we covered Black River, which is
yeah,
I think precedes these and very much
it's
there.
a
This
little
one's
before,
fun.
but yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
Class
that was
Two.
another one. I
Yeah.
was like, well, I figure let's throw in some genre films, because
Hmm.
even if some of these filmmakers aren't necessarily always grouped in with the new wave, there there's a lot of cross pollination. So I think the samurai films, the noir films were very much influenced by the sort of bold stylistic choices that a lot of the new wave directors were making. So yeah,
Yeah,
Sword of
I
Doom
would.
and Demons are both very. Sword of Doom is probably maybe I would say more fun. Demons is great too, but it's
Yeah,
it's a very
yeah.
dark film. Yeah, yeah, they're both great.
I think it's almost like to the samurai movie what revisionist westerns are to the westerns. So
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
very
very
much
much
an
so.
anti-hero. So
Yeah,
I look forward. That'll be fun. And you already mentioned Oshima.
yeah,
This, of course, is the cover image, Death by Hanging. Black
yeah,
Sun, another good one.
yeah,
I mean, all these are really great. The Art Theater Guild. So that'll be interesting perspective. And then yeah,
yeah,
horror leading into not quite October to horror time, but
yeah.
great
But it'll
choices
be
there as well.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, those. I mean, Demon Pond was one I just watched fairly recently with the Criterion release, so that was kind
Yeah.
of a late add to the class. But I think that's, and I mean, I think Masahiro Shinoda. I mean, he's definitely a lesser discussed director than a lot of the Japanese new wave directors, but he was kind of one of the original directors to come out of that, Shochiko in the early '60s. So I felt like
Mm.
adding another film from him on top of Double Suicide. I mean, Double Suicide's a masterpiece. I think Demon
Yeah.
Pond is
Yeah.
is great, but it's a fun movie. It's I figured it'd be nice to end on a little bit of a more fun note to go out on.
Mhm.
So
So yeah, we don't we've also talked about the Safdie brothers. So you
yeah,
don't want to just depress people
yeah,
for
yeah,
10 weeks,
exactly. Yeah,
but you want to stimulate people intellectually. So which is a good
yeah.
transition. So what do you think people will get from these classes? What's a good takeaway?
Well, I mean, just in doing a bunch of reading, and looking at sources online, just research in general, it's the history of that period is so rich, and the amount of Japanese new wave films is it's such
Hmm.
a dense period. I mean, there was so much going on um, in Japan and the Japanese film industry of that period that I mean, if you're at all interested in any period of Japanese film, whether it's more the classical side. I mean, I said I love Mizoguchi, Ozu, those guys, or the modern J horror, or
Hmm.
um, the more modern directors. I think this is kind of a good.
Yeah.
It really helps you can kind of tell the story of the second half of the 20th century of Japan by just looking at the Japanese New Wave. It's kind of crazy how much it
Hmm.
reshaped the culture there. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a good. I'm hoping
Exploitation
exploitation.
genre.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going
Yeah.
to get into the Pinku films,
Right.
but
Right. Well,
that
I
certainly
wasn't going there,
no,
but
no, no.
yeah,
But I
but
mean, it's
that's a part. Yeah.
it's I mean, hey, Oshima, yeah, Oshima made one,
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but just in terms of like, yes, that the new wave led almost directly into the Pink film.
Hmm.
But there was a reason that came up, which is something we'll discuss towards the end of the class. So yeah, I mean, I hope people take away a little bit of history, but we'll also be kind of digging into the genres, the different styles, the influences, um, all that. And like I said, I try to throw in some fun films, noir, horror, stuff like that. So
Like you can see, I've lingered on Joe Shishido, who is super
yeah,
cool.
yes, we will learn about the
He's in a
origins
lot.
of Joe Shishido's cheeks.
You should have a class. You
Which
should have
are
one class on his cheeks. I mean, it's
on his
that
cheeks.
interesting.
Yes, it's yeah,
So,
it's it's
but
a
we're
pretty
not
wild
prescriptive.
story. So yeah,
It is a crazy. I mean, come on. He
yeah,
dude had cheek implants back
yeah,
then. So
yeah,
Well, to register for these classes, so they're $65, and Magic Hour subscribers, it's a 25% discount, but it's really a flat $15. So if you're a Magic Hour, you just get it for $50.
Yeah.
So and in fact, probably a lot of people that are current subscribers don't have those codes yet. So if you are one, you'll get a code for that. In fact, we have a little we call it the founding member hub. It's really the founding members / Magic Hour. So those coupons will just live there. So you can register at any time with those discounts. And yeah, you just fill out this form here, and then boom, go.
Yeah,
And you
and I hope
can
people,
use.
if you check out
Yeah.
the first class and like it, you can sign up for the second, or if you're more interested in the films in the second one, you can always sign up for that. I think that's, it's an advantage of splitting up the class.
And if you hate it, you don't
Hated
have
the
to come
first one.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Please don't come
So
back.
so let's talk about what's coming just briefly. What do you want to cover going forward after Japanese New Wave?
So
Uh,
yeah, as we talked about after that, I mean, this was just kind of the maybe the universe speaking, but
yeah,
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
David Lynch, one of my all-time favorite directors. I mean, yeah, I'd like to do either a class or a journey on. It's kind of, for David Lynch, I almost hate saying, "Oh, it's going to be a class on David Lynch."
Right.
David Lynch is a journey in itself. So whatever we call it,
Yes,
it's
yes.
yeah. So yeah, we're gonna try to go through all of his films, and he's one of those directors where I think um his films are endlessly rewatchable, but they're endlessly discussable, and everybody will come away with
Hmm.
different interpretations. So I think this is kind of the advantage of Cine Journeys, is just sort of a place to spark these discussions, to have them
Hmm.
I was in person, but online. But it's different than having it on a Discord. You can have, I
It
think,
could
much
happen.
deeper
It could happen.
conversations.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah,
So
we'll have the LA Film Club. So yeah.
yeah.
Uh, well, and of course, Lynch is huge. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to hear about that. Any thoughts? I'm kind of putting you on the spot here.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I mean, these are probably more ideas, just interests, things you want to cover later, and you can say no.
Yeah.
You're still
No, no,
thinking
no,
about it.
no. I mean, I do have some ideas sort of percolating. One of the classes I had an idea for, and again, this one might just get thrown out like, the bathwater. But was doing a class called Locked Up Abroad, and it would be prison films from around the world.
Ooh,
So sort of do
okay.
like a Japanese prison film, French prison film. That might be a little too niche. So, I might need to test it out, see if anybody's actually interested in it. But that's just, that's just an
A year from
idea.
now, people might be like, where are those prison films, Derek?"
Yeah, yeah.
And now, okay, maybe I shouldn't ask you too much because somebody might steal that idea, and we don't
Yeah,
want.
yeah.
I mean, it's not,
Yeah,
not like prison films are something new people are discovering,
yeah, yeah,
but yeah, like you said, that's a journey too. So,
yeah.
well, we look forward to having you. So, Japanese New Waves, the first one starts March 2nd. So,
March 2nd. Yeah. So it'll be
so a little bit of
every,
time.
yeah, it'll
Yeah.
be on Sunday. I know a lot of Cine Journey people are Eastern, so it's 2 p.m. Eastern, 11
Hmm.
a.m. Pacific
So,
every week.
so
So
you
yeah.
also Euros can spend their evenings or weekend
Yeah,
evenings,
yeah,
and
it kind of works out for,
yeah.
for Europeans and US, Canada,
Hmm. And towards
Mexico,
the end of
wherever.
football season, so yeah,
Yeah,
and
I made sure to schedule it, yeah, after the Super Bowl for sure. I'm not going to start it,
right,
during the
yeah,
playoffs.
yeah.
So
Well, looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a lot
yeah,
of fun. So if you haven't registered or if you have questions, feel free to drop them on our Discord. But Derek, looking forward to these classes, and yeah, seeing and of course David Lynch too. That's gonna be a fun one. So
yeah, yeah, can't
try
wait for
Derek
that.
out with Japanese New Wave, and then buckle up for the ride for David Lynch.
Yeah,
How
for
about
David Lynch.
that?
All right, sounds good.